You can say, well, you should be satisfied with what you have, but it's kind of really a stupid thing in some sense to tell human beings. I would think about this, because I'll tell you what it is that you need to do to be successful. Some of these things aren't so malleable, but others are things that you can work on. Well, IQ, well, that's a rough one, because there's no evidence, as far as I can tell, that you can do a damn thing about your IQ. I was just reading a paper by Dan Simon today. It's a relatively recent review. Dan Simon did the invisible gorilla stuff, and he was looking, because there's all these companies that claim that these online brain training exercises can produce cognitive improvements, and he reviewed the literature again. And I've reviewed that literature like 6 times in the last 15 years, because I keep hoping that someone will crack the problem, but it's always the same answer. It's like, you do brain training games, you get better at the game, a lot better at that game. You get slightly better at similar games, but distal games that are still heavily cognitively loaded doesn't affect your performance at all. Zero, none. So the issue of how to raise IQ, man, that's a killer. No one knows how to do it. I can tell you how to stop your IQ from decreasing as you get older. That's not so bad, because it does that. Fluid IQ decreases from the time you're 20, and pretty rapidly. It's physical health is the best preventative. So exercise, physical exercise.
We all would certainly like to be a millionaire, but how can you place yourself in the right mindset to actually get there? Don't worry about always being the most intelligent person. As far as anyone knows, there is nothing you can do about your IQ. However, as you get older, your IQ begins to drop, and there is something you can do to prevent that. Keep your mind healthy. You also need to keep your body healthy. Exercise and eat right to keep the oxygen flowing to your brain so that you can remain sharp well into your adult years. One of the most important skills you can have is the ability to write, because writing is the same as thinking. Thinking makes you an effective person and allows you to win the battles you face daily. If you think, speak, and write, then you will be a much more powerful person. One of the hardest things to do is to tell the truth. It's easy to use your speech in a way that pays off in the short term. Retrain yourself to look for long-term peace instead of the temporary relief of dishonesty. It makes you weak, and weak people are a problem. If you aren't supporting yourself and being a useful person, then it only hurts you in the end. You have to be willing to go into the unknown and find who you are as a person. A natural part of life is growing up and being dependent on yourself. Use necessity to drive you forward towards your goals. Don't be complacent with being handed everything that you haven't earned, and take the risks necessary to becoming successful.
Trying to tell the person what they did wrong, it's like, well, you did everything wrong. Everything about this essay is wrong. Well, that's not helpful either. You have to find the few little things they did half right, and you have to teach them what they did wrong. It's really expensive. And so what I did with this rubric was try to address that from the production side instead of the grading side. But the best thing you can do is teach people to write, because there's no difference between that and thinking. And one of the things that just blows me away about universities is that no one ever tells students why they should write something. It's like, well, you have to do this assignment. Well, why are you writing? Well, you need the grade. It's like, no, you need to learn to think, because thinking makes you act effectively in the world. Thinking makes you win the battles you undertake, and those could be battles for good things. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Nothing can get in your way. So that's why you learn to write. It's like, and I can't believe that people aren't just told that. It's the most powerful weapon you can possibly provide someone with. The hardest one is to tell the truth, or at least not to lie. Well, because it's easy to use your speech in a way that pays off in the short term, and it's difficult to contend with the conflict that's inevitable if you try to do things in a straightforward manner, because that produces short-term conflict. It produces long-term peace, which is a huge advantage, but it's very tempting in the short term to circumvent the problem and pretend that it's not there. Well, weak people are a problem in general. And I don't mean physically weak, I mean cowardly, let's say, and deceitful, because I'm thinking it more in terms of moral weakness. Well, there's a variety of reasons. First of all, if you can't support your own weight, let's say, then someone else has to do it, and that's not good. And then if you don't make your pathway, if you don't pick a forthright and useful and noble pathway through life, then you'll become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence, and then you tend to seek your revenge wherever you can get it, and that's not good. So you have to go into the unknown. That's God's first command. Go into the unknown, because you already know what you know. And that's not enough unless you think you're enough. And if you're not enough and you don't think you're enough, then you have to go where you haven't been. And so that's the first commandment to Abraham. It's like, okay, that's a good one. That makes perfect sense. Go to where you don't know. Yes. And from thy kindred. Well, what does that mean? It means grow up, right? That's what it means. It means get away from your family enough so that you can establish your independence. And that isn't because there's something wrong with your family, although perhaps there is, as there is perhaps wrong with you. But it means get away. I talk to people very frequently whose families have provided them with too much protection. And they know it themselves. And that means they're deprived of necessity. One of the things that you see in the United States, for example, is that the children of first-generation immigrants often do better than their children. And the reason for that is that the children of first-generation immigrants have necessity driving them.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content.